When I think about talent attraction today, I no longer see it as a simple recruitment process. I look at it as one of the most strategic conversations a company can have with the world. In the past, attracting talent often meant publishing a vacancy, waiting for candidates to apply, checking curriculums, conducting interviews, and selecting the person who looks to fit best. That process still exists, of course, but the context around it has changed completely. Today, companies are not only competing for candidates, they are competing for attention, trust, reputation, and meaning. A person who sees a job posting is not only asking, "Can I do this job?" They are also asking, "Do I want to work for this organization? Do I believe in what they do? Will I be respected there? Will I have opportunities to grow? Will this company allow me to build a future?" That is why I believe the digital reality has transformed recruitment into something much deeper than an administrative activity. Platforms such as LinkedIn, Career Builder, and Monster have created an interconnected labor market where companies and candidates observe each other constantly. A vacancy is no longer just a job announcement, it is a message about the organization. One of the main ideas I would like to emphasize is this: people don't only choose jobs, they choose organizations, cultures, and futures. This sentence is very powerful because it reminds us that employment is not only economic. Of course, salary matters, benefits matter, stability matters, but people also want purpose, flexibility, learning, recognition, good leadership, fairness, and a sense of belonging. In this new context, the labor market is no longer limited by geography in the same way. Digital platforms have changed. The geography of talent have changed too. A job offer can reach candidates in different cities, countries, industries, and professional communities within seconds. LinkedIn, for example, allows employers to identify not only active candidates, but also passive candidates, people who are not necessarily looking for a job, but who might become interested if they see the right opportunity. Career Builder and Monster Platform also connect companies with large databases of job seekers and allow candidates to compare opportunities more easily. This creates enormous opportunities for organizations. They can reach more people, communicate their values, promote their culture, and identify profiles that would have been difficult to find through traditional recruitment. But it also creates new challenges. If companies can reach more candidates, candidates can also compare more companies. If employers have more visibility, they are also exposed to more scrutiny. If the process is faster, expectations become higher. In other words, the digital labor market gives companies more power, but it also gives candidates more power. Candidates today are better informed. Before applying, many of them check the company's LinkedIn page, review employee comments, observe how leaders communicate, compare salaries, analyze benefits, and look for signs of organizational culture. They do not enter the process blindly. This is why I think recruitment is no longer one directional. Employers assess candidates, but candidates also assess employers. The company may be asking, is this person qualified? But the candidate is also asking, is this company worth my time, my energy, my talent, and my future? From a strategic perspective, this connects with J. Barney's resource, that is also known as basic view of the firm. Barney argued that resources can become a source of sustainability, competitive, and advantage when they are valuable, rare, difficult to imitate, and well organized. Human capital fits very clearly into this idea. The knowledge, skills, creativity, experience, judgment, and commitment of people can become one of the most important advantages an organization has. That means talent attraction. It's not just about filling empty positions. It is about building long term competitiveness. When a company attracts the right people, it strengthens its capacity to innovate, solve problems, adapt to change, serve clients better, and create value. Talent is no simple hybrid. Talent is attracted by what the organization represents. For that reason, companies cannot compete only with salaries. They also compete with purpose, learning opportunities, flexibility, leadership, reputation, fairness, and professional growth. A higher salary may attract attention, but it doesn't always build commitment. People may accept a job because of compensation, but they usually stay because of culture, leadership, meaning, and development. This is where digital platforms become very, very important. Platforms such as LinkedIn, Career, Career Builder, Indeed, and Monster function as gateways between employers and candidates, but they also function as mirrors. They reflect the organization's identity. On LinkedIn, candidates can see job openings, employee posts, company updates, leadership messages, and organizational values. On job platforms, they can compare requirements, responsibilities, salaries, benefits, and application processes. That visibility is powerful and useful, but it can also be risky. If a company says it values innovation but uses a slow and outdated hiring processes, candidates notice. If it promotes diversity and inclusion but uses basic language or nuclear selection criteria, candidates notice. If it claims to care about people but doesn't respond to applicants, candidates notice. Digital platforms make employer behavior visible. In the digital world, every vacancy is also a message about the company. A job description communicates much more than tasks and requirements. It communicates the way the organization thinks, the kind of person it wants, the level of professionalism it has, and the respect it shows for candidates. A vague job posting suggests improvisation. A clear job posting suggests seriousness. A cold hiring process suggests distance. A respectful process suggests culture. This is why candidate experience has become so important. A candidate who is treated with respect may become an ambassador even if they are rejected. But a candidate who is ignored may become a critic. And today, criticism travels quickly. People share their experiences through social media, professional networks, review platforms, and personal conversations. A poor candidate experience can damage the employer brand. Sometimes companies forget that every applicant is also a person with expectations, emotions, and a professional network. When a candidate invests time in applying, preparing for interviews, completing assessments, or attending meetings, they deserve clarity and respect. Silence, disorganization, and lack of feedback can produce frustration and distrust. That is why I like to say that recruitment is not only selection, it is relationship plus building. The process itself creates an impression. Even before the company chooses the candidate is forming an opinion about the company. The digital talent market brings several major challenges. One of them is information overload. Candidates are exposed to many jobs postings, many platforms, many messages, and many promises. In this environment, a generic vacancy can easily disappear. Companies must communicate clearly, honestly, and meaningfully if they want to stand out. Another challenge is high competition. Organizations are not only competing with companies in the same city or industry, in many roles, especially in the digital one, creative, managerial, or knowledge based roles, they compete with employers across regions and countries. A candidate may compare a local company with an international brand, a traditional corporation with a startup, or an on site position with a remote opportunity. Reputation, exposure is also a major challenge. In the past, many internal problems remained inside the organization. Today, employer reputation is much more visible. If candidates feel mistreated, if employees are unhappy, or if the company's public message doesn't match its internal culture, that inconsistency can become visible. Candidate expectations have also changed. People expect clarity, speed, respect, and authenticity. They want to know what the job involves, what the process will look like, how long it will take, how and what the compensation range is, and what kind of culture they are entering. They do not want to feel manipulated by open promises or endless selection stages. Another delicate challenge is technological bias. Digital tools can help recruiters process information faster, but technology is not automatically neutral. Algorithms, filters, and automated systems can reproduce discrimination if they are based data or poorly designed criteria. If a company has historically hired only certain profiles, an algorithm trained on that history may continue to favor those profiles and exclude others. This is why organizations must be careful. Efficiency without fairness only makes discrimination faster. Technology can support recruitment, but it should not replace ethical judgment. Companies need to audit their tools, monitor adverse impact, Review selection criteria and make sure there is human accountability in the process. There is also the risk of losing human connection. Automation can be useful, but if everything becomes automatic, candidates may feel invisible. A person may receive automated emails, automated tests, chatbot responses, and generic rejection messages. The process may be efficient but emotionally empty. The real changes and challenges are not to reject technology. The goal is to humanize the technology because it can be like the new opportunity to organize information, improving communication, and expand accesses. But trust still depends on human treatment. Candidates want to feel that behind the platform, the form, or the email, there is an organization that respects them. This brings me transparency. Transparency begins with the job position. A job offer should not be a vague advertisement. It should be a clear ethical commitment. A transparent job posting should include a realistic job title, clear responsibilities, required and desirable qualifications, salary range, or compensation structure when possible benefits, working conditions, and expectations regarding remote, hybrid, or on site work. It should also mention growth opportunities, selection stages, equal opportunity principles, and the expected timeline of the process. This type of clearly helps candidates decide whether the opportunity fits their profile, their expectation, and their life situation goes on. Transparency is useful for candidates, but it is also useful for employers. It reduces uncertainty, prevents misunderstandings, and helps attract people who are genuinely aligned with the role. If a company hides important information, it may receive more applications, but not necessarily better applications. Quantity does not always mean quality. The ISO 3045 guidance of requirement is relevant here because it understands requirement as a structured process that should support organizational objectives and include attraction, assessment, recruitment flow, evaluation, and candidate experience. This reminds us that recruitment is not just the final decision. It is the full journey from the first contact to the final outcome. Transparency must also continue throughout the hiring process. Candidates should know where they stand, what will happen next, and how decisions are made. This doesn't mean that employers must reveal every internal discussion, but it does mean that candidates deserve enough information to feel respected and fairly treated. Good practices includes explaining the stages of selection, communicating expected timelines, informing candidates about assessment methods, avoiding unnecessary silence or ghosting, giving respectful rejection messages or emails or anything else, providing feedback when feasible, and keeping communications consistent across candidates. For example, ghosting is especially harmful when a candidate applies, prepares interviews, and then never hears back. The message is something very, very negative. I have felt like many times before. It tells the candidate indirectly that their time didn't matter, Even a brief rejection message is more respectful than silence. In digital recruitment, silence is interpreted quickly and often negatively. Uncertainty, weakness, trust, clarity strengthens it. This is closely connected to employer branding. Employer branding is not simple making the company look attractive online. Tim Ambler and Simon Barrow defined the employer brand as the package of functional, economic, and psychological benefits provided by employment and identified with the employing company. I find this definition useful because it shows that employer branding is not only about salary or benefits. It includes functional elements such as responsibilities, tools, work design, and career development. It includes economic elements such as compensation and maybe benefits. But it also includes psychological elements such as belonging, pride, recognition, identity, and meaning. Employer branding means answering one essential question: why should talent people choose us? And that answer must be honest, specific, and consistent. It cannot be reduced to slogans like "we are innovative, we value people," or "we are a great place to work." Candidates need evidence. Evidence may include employee stories, development programs, leadership behavior, flexibility policies, inclusion practices, career paths, mentoring, training, and real examples of internal growth. A strong employer brand doesn't invent a false image. It communicates the best thoughtful version of the organization. This is very important. Employer branding should not be fiction. It should not be cosmetic. If the external message is beautiful but the internal experience is poor, the brand will eventually break. The employer brand is not only what the company says, it is what people believe about working there. That is why the employee value proposition, or EVP, is so important. The EVP is the set of tangible and intangible benefits that an organization offers to employers in exchange for their skills, performance, commitment, and contribution. It is the real substance behind the employer brand. The EVP includes compensation, benefits, career development, learning opportunities, organizational purpose, work life balance, leadership style, culture and belonging, recognition, flexibility, and autonomy. In simple terms, it answers the question: what does the organization offer to people beyond the paycheck? Backhouse and Tiku explained employer branding as the effort to promote a clear view of what makes a company different and desirable as an employer. The EVP gives substance to that promise. Without a real EVP, employer branding becomes empty marketing. This is why the promise made to candidates must become the experience lived by employees. In a company process flexibility, employees must experience flexibility. If it promises inclusion, employees must experience inclusion. If it promises growth, employees must see real opportunities to grow, not only the word of possibilities of growth. Organization attracts people with one message and loses them, all of them, because of another reality. Finally, I would say that attracting talent in the new digital reality requires a balance between visibility, credibility, technology, and humanity. Companies need to be visible but not superficial. Mm-mm. They need to be fast but not careless. They need to use technology but not lose empathy. They need to promote themselves but with honestly. The future of recruitment will not belong only to organizations with the most advanced tools. It will belong to organizations that are capable of building trust. Digital platforms can open the door, but the organization's culture determines whether people can and want to enter and stay. In this sense, attracting talent is not only about finding people, it is about becoming the kind of organization that people want to find.